Pew, pew, pew.
It's the Central Weekly, a weekly podcast from the Central Podcast Network. You've got episode 63 of the Central Weekly.
And it's a lot of podcast episodes, Jared.
That's my name.
Yeah.
Your name is?
Jon.
And we're here to bring you episode 63 of the Central Weekly. And we're continued, if you're familiar with the last couple weeks of the Central Weekly, we have some staff members here at Central. We're bringing them in. They're giving us some ministry highlights, some ministry updates of what's going on. And we have two of the greatest men that I have ever known.
Wow.
That's right. We have, hey, guess what, everybody? Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Is the crowd ready? Caden, video guy Vaughn.
Caden Vaughn.
And Noah, student worship leader Hanson. We changed their middle names.
Wow.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It's a permanent gig.
Hey guys, I'm Noah.
So what?
Hey, I'm Caden. I'm a video guy.
This is going to go really well.
Oh,
boy.
So here's the thing. They are here to talk all things creative arts, all things, and a little bit, because what Noah does is he bleeds student ministries and creative arts. He blends them together. So I'm excited about this because these two guys have been on the podcast network before. They both have...
Eric. Yes.
Yeah.
Praise.
Well, we call it the Praise Podcast.
Sorry,
Brooke
Praise
took
Podcast.
offense to that.
Yeah.
But we need to give them a shout out because they're just a little podcast that nobody knows about. So we need to. Wow. But here's the cool thing: if you want to know more about these guys, they have some great episodes. When you told your story on the Praise Podcast, Noah Hanson and Caden Vaughn, you really did a good job. I don't know if everyone listened to it, but you can press
believe
pause.
that you did.
You can press pause and go to those episodes because they're really good. Your vulnerability, guys, and your honesty with your conversation was super good, and I'm always impressed with you guys, so I'm going to be hopefully impressed with this episode.
Setting it up.
So pressure is high. But here's what I want to do first. Before we get into you guys, before we get into the ministry outlook that you guys are going to look at, we're going to look a little bit at families.
Okay.
Because we're in week 5 of Build This House.
Yeah.
That's me hammering.
Who's there?
Building this house. And again, I'd like to say this. We're going to try to stay general with the topic of family, but then we're probably going to get specific with the sermon.
Yeah.
So go listen to the sermon if you haven't yet already. It's a good one because last week, your voice is back, Jon, which I'm glad.
I'd put it maybe like 75%, maybe 80.
Your voice, that's
That's where I'd put it. But I mean, that's a far cry from where it was last week.
Percentage-wise,
last week it was
40?
down in there. Oh, if that, yeah.
I was just thankful for steroids, right?
Yeah. So, I got a prednisone shot last Saturday after Central Serve Day, and then took 20 milligrams of prednisone Sunday morning, and that was more than enough to get through. So thank God.
And Jon is sitting next to me. He's ripped, ladies and gentlemen. He is.
People have said, like, you look particularly jacked. I said, well, let me tell you.
Veins are bulging.
I just like you came in the office in, like right before 9:15, you said, hey. I said, hey, Jon, how's your voice? You said, great. I said, what'd you do? You said, I steroids. I got a shot in my butt.
I did.
He said, if you see me and I look a little bit jacked, you know why.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Here's the funny thing. Steroids comes up a lot with you. You had the great
I had
story.
my friend Lauren. Yeah.
And so if you ever want to, do a product placement, we could begin medical issued to you by a doctor.
Right,
That's what we're
for sure. It was a
talking
prescription.
But this is going to be a good one. We're going to talk about families first up and foremost. And it's a good song. And I like that we have some, because Caden, you have a musical history, current and past.
Sure.
And I mean, that's what you do, Noah. Yeah, and hopefully. So you bring up the beginning of your sermon, you bring up harmony. Mm-hmm. Harmony.
Yeah, trolls, harmony.
It's really high.
Yeah.
So here's the funny thing is, I haven't talked to you about this. I've listened to your sermon.
Hold up. Let's see what we got in the room. All right, we got 4 dudes. Ready? Harmony.
Harmony.
Oh, why am I last? Harmony.
Oh my gosh. All right, carry on.
Okay, so here's the thing. When you bring up some musical acts, really brought one up.
Jackson 5.
Jackson 5.
Right.
I don't think that queued a lot of people up that are younger than the age of 40.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
musical acts that you guys know of that have great harmony.
Hanson. Mbop.
Again, I think they're too old for that.
I don't know that.
He's like, that's my last
You don't know
name.
who Hanson is? Get out of here. Mbop.
You really don't know Hanson? Who Hanson is?
I mean,
Yours is with an
no.
O, right? Like them.
Yeah.
So your brothers. You don't know anything
No,
about
my brother actually got attention because his name's Zach.
Mm-hmm.
So people thought that he was the Zach Hanson from the Hanson brothers.
Oh, wow.
But
So you do
he's
know
not.
Hanson.
One Direction. That's your generation.
I mean,
What was the question?
maybe
Harmony groups that are current to you.
Groups.
Mm-hmm.
harmony.
Well, you have to have a
That's
group.
the thing you have to have.
Well, yeah, One Direction. What's the? It was either like X Factor, America's Got Talent, American Idol, but it was like the 2 or 3 girls. The one of the girls plays Ariel in the new Little
I have no
Mermaid.
idea.
But she was like a part of like a group. I
Yeah.
don't know how many there were, but they were very good. I guess they do a lot of the harmonies.
There's a gap.
Oh, my goodness. Pentatonics is like the harmony group. I mean, like,
yes,
yeah, that is harmony.
You need to mention
Yeah.
that in your sermon this weekend.
Pentatonics. All right, I'll do that.
Throw in something that's
Thank
culturally relevant today. But I like too that you kind of tell in these sermons, and you've said when you talk about building up, you talk about this part of this lesson is based on a similarity to the house.
If I was going to compare this this subject to a portion of the house, the family, I would call the family kind of like the living room. You know, I mean, like or whatever the central portion of your home is. I mean, there's a lot of different parts of your house that don't look the same. They don't have the same function. They don't, you got bathroom and kitchen and bedroom and that. I mean, you've got a lot of different parts of your house, but there's kind of this connecting part, which is that's kind of the family. I think is kind of like that central bring together point.
And what were the 4 others? I'm giving this a
4
test.
others.
So you had the front door or the foundation.
Yeah,
was
the foundation.
the first
You had
week.
the front porch. You had the boards, the walls,
Relationships
that are made up.
Yep. So here we go. Building godly families. I liked how you keep this pretty simple, and you had the most points that I think you've ever had in a lesson because you just had a lot. But you're saying you're basically calling out the husbands, calling out the wives, and you're calling out the children.
Well, there's actually 4. Yeah, there's 4. I think there's a 4-part. 4 parts to the equation for God's ideal structure for the family. Starts with the man, then the responsibility moves to the woman, then the responsibility moves to the children, but then everybody involved has the responsibility of submitting to one another in reverence of Christ.
Yeah, I think it's
Done.
So growing
Sermon
up,
over.
you two, give me a little bit about your history. Noah, where'd you grow up? I know you're a PK, and
Stands for pastor's kid,
yes.
Yeah.
not place kicker.
Yeah.
I think
I
you could be a
wish.
place kicker.
Joking. PK. Grew up in church all my life, and like all of my story.
No,
If
well,
they want to
just-
hear all my story, praise podcast.
Yeah, just how you grew up.
Just grew up in church all my
Uh-huh.
life. I graduated 2019. Went to college. I'm a junior. Live here, and love what I do.
And you have how many? 1 brother, 1 sister.
2 brothers, 1 sister. I'm the
Okay.
youngest
4.
of 4.
Okay. Caden, Vaughn.
What was the question? I'm just kidding.
You always do that.
You want a little? Grew up in church. My dad and my mom always took me and my older brother to church. Like, hey, wake up, let's go to church.
Mhm.
It was cool because my grandma and my grandpa, it was kind of their church. We kind of grew up there, and then my brother came over to Central in high school. Started going to Fusion a lot. I would go to whatever was before they called it Ignite. I don't know what it was, but went down there when it was in the old Kid Depot, or the new Kid Depot. Sorry.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I go there a little bit, hop around, whatever. And then, so did that, graduated from Mount Vernon.
What
Go
grade? What year?
Rams. 2018.
That's some young
pretty
guys
crazy.
in this room.
Mm-hmm.
Toured my whole life pretty much. Came here. Now I do videos, and I'm married to our what's her title?
She's
Connections
director. Yeah.
Shout out to my wife.
She's great.
She's
Central Serve Day.
She's pretty cool. Shout out to Central Serve Day too.
Back to this family. So we got a little bit of your structure growing up, but we've talked about this, and you just said it. You toured. Those could become families. I mean, you literally toured with your family a little bit. But
Yeah. Well, toured my dad.
Yeah.
Toured with my dad forever. Yeah, but no. Yeah, I mean,
So very much family.
100%. No, but I mean, even hopping around to different bands. I mean, you're literally in an RV or a bus or a van for like weeks and months at a time.
Mhm.
Like you have basically no choice. Like, these are your people.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally 2 inches away from them, most of the time anyway. And like, you just learn about them, grow with them, and just, they're your road family, your road dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it too, John. You make the point, like, if your family isn't what you think it would be right now, if you have 3 divorces, or you're empty nested or full nested or all the above, there's still lessons here, because when a husband loves his wife, it's not with any old love.
Everybody fits into God's structure for family. It doesn't matter whether you're married or single, parent, not a parent. I mean, you have a parent. You have, there's just everybody somewhere fits into the structure that God has established for the family.
And I like too, having 5 kids. I love your third point: obey your parents.
Yeah, for this is right. It's not easy, it's not convenient, but it is right. And that, as Scripture says, that is the first commandment that comes with a promise. The 4 before it, that is the 5th commandment. And the 4 before it, no other gods before me, don't take my name in vain, remember the Sabbath, keep it holy, have no idols. Those 4 are very much like, just do it. But then you get to the 5th one, which is this one about honoring your parents. And it's the first one that says, if you do this, then this will happen. Like this kind of a cause and effect. If you do this, then there's an outcome that will happen in response to you obeying.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's important that you said at every age, at every stage, because there's sometimes where you think, oh, now I'm a husband, now I have my own family. What my parents tell me now, I can disregard because I'm not under their roof anymore. But that's not the case. You find godly families at every stage, at every stage, at every age, where the whole unit are respecting one another and they're obeying God in this principle. So I like to. This is going to be fun because these 2 guys have not heard this sermon, and you say that family is like a what?
A Flerner work. That's right.
What does that mean?
A Flerner work.
I thought when I listened to that, I thought,
Flerner?
oh no, John's having a stroke.
Oh.
But it means something. 3 things: firework,
furnace.
furnace.
A firework, a furnace, and a flower. I think the family is kind of like a firework, a furnace, and a flower.
Learner.
A Flerner work.
That's gonna be viral.
You made that up?
Yeah, I made that up. Yeah, that's
I
right.
like how Ian asked it.
I didn't get it from anybody. I'll tell you that. No lunatics out there throwing around words like Flerner work.
I'm not saying you hit a creative peak last week with your story,
With the bridge called
but
Higher.
we could be going downhill now.
Which, good job putting that together, by the way, Jared.
Oh, that was but yeah, go back to that. I thought it was so important for people to know that you wrote it. Not to give credit to you really, but give credit to how you responded to the Holy Spirit working that creativity through you. And I thought it'd be cool for families to tell that story around the table, around the bedtime, time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I appreciate
easy
you
to
putting
do
the
that.
work into making that look nice.
but floral work, firework, furnace, and flower. And your grandfather's name is the same as his dad,
Yeah, Dale.
Dale. So,
I went Kevin, but you went Dale. You went middle name.
oh,
Your dad's middle name is Dale?
Yeah.
oh, really?
Kevin Devon
I didn't know that.
Jr.
Really?
Are you?
Yeah.
No, you're not the third. 'Cause it's Caden. But here's what
Yes,
I
I'm
love.
Caden Vaughn the third.
I loved how you told that story because you set this up like, oh, I had this bottle rocket. It shot it at my grandfather. My grandfather's now dead,
Yeah.
but not from that firework.
But he didn't die from the firework. It was unrelated causes years later.
But it's so true that the family can be a very beautiful, awe-inspiring thing, but it can also be very destructive, very volatile, and very just.
It can go sideways in a hurry and be
Yes.
pretty explosive. That's how it's like a firework. Yeah.
But I too like that you said furnace in the fact that it's supposed to provide comfort. My wife puts that furnace on, puts it on high, unlike your wife,
Yeah.
and she finds comfort in that heat.
Yeah.
I find it debilitating.
yeah.
But anyway, she finds the cold debilitating. But I liked how you said sometimes with like a furnace, you got to bring in a specialist
You
for
gotta
help.
call in an expert. Yeah. Like it's not something's not ticking the way it's supposed to, and it's okay to need some help from the outside. And so we offered this weekend in the Blue Room a couple of names of trusted family counselors if somebody would like to have that from a godly perspective. And so family is like a firework, it's like a furnace, and of course it's like a flower because at the end of the day, it's a lot of parts that are unlike each other working together for the good and the beauty of the whole thing. So
Yeah. I always
It's
love
a
this.
Flerner work, boys. It's a Flerner work.
I always love this time of year because we've got. Do you have any flower? Because we have got the peonies that bloom in our
What?
yard. What?
What is it?
A peony? No. What does your wife call it?
I don't. I think she. I don't.
Oh, what is it?
I think she might say peony.
Peony. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but either way.
But
it's
anyways, the bushes always come out right before Mother's Day, and they always bloom right before Mother's Day. And it makes me think, because you think about that, the thing in the middle, whatever that's called, that is completely different than the what thing's on the end. This is a dude trying to talk about a flower. But you're right. But it all makes one whole. And sometimes we are put together. I mean, my family for sure is put together from different places, and we look different, but we have one commonality, and that's being rooted in Christ, and we're rooted like the flower. So I really like that. And I think it's important too, going kind of back to the help, and I think you're going to talk about this in a little bit, but the key to happiness in the home is holiness in the humans.
Yeah.
And you say, before that, you said, what happens in your house now will affect what happens then.
right.
And I think too, hopefully we're demonstrating to our kids the need that we do need help, and that everything's not perfect. Mommy and daddy sometimes do argue, and they do raise their voice sometimes. If that was something in your family, I don't know, guys, if that was something you grew up in, but you got to be honest with your family and your kids to say, hey, daddy messed up, mommy messed up, but yet this is why. And I think just that communication is a lot like the furnace and asking for help, and the fact that we have to be able to not think that we've got this perfect family, or on the flip side, not to think that our family is horrible and it is not beyond restoration.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
Wow.
That's good. Thanks for the port.
Good job.
But in all of it, Ephesians 5:21 is that summation of everything that you mentioned about the
Yeah. Submit to one another in reverence for Christ.
Because if we're submitting to one another, just like Christ did,
Out of reverence for who God is, the way that He designed the family, we accept our role and our responsibility in the picture of the family, and we play it out the best that we can in reverence for Him and who He is.
Yeah. I thought it was a good one. I think, and it's important to know that, like, we in this church body have got to we've got to have strong families, because again, the church has to demonstrate to the world the difference that God makes in our lives. And if we're just as dysfunctional and we have just all these crazy families, again, I'm not saying crazy family because that's our fault, but we've got to be demonstrating God's love to the outside world, and we can do that best by strong, united families. So, good stuff. Let's talk to these guys now.
Let's do it.
Okay, so here we go. You both are part of creative arts here at Central.
Yes.
And you do vastly different things.
Right.
Yes.
Caden, your job primarily is in the video editing world. And your title, which you told me not to say, but it is post-production director.
Correct.
But basically, your big emphasis is our WSIL broadcast. That's one of your biggest things. And it's really neat that we're bringing you in, because you had two great videos in service, Central Serve Day Recap and the Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing both those. We're recording this on Friday. Flerner work.
Went through the whole.
That's right. Flerner work. And I'm looking forward to seeing both those. I haven't seen either one yet.
I'm pumped. Yeah, I don't know what the timeline of this is, but I think that the Central Serve Day videos could be one of the better videos I've done.
That's awesome.
Pretty excited.
It looks
about
really
it,
cool.
What's your favorite thing about being on staff here at Central? But specifically, like, what's your favorite thing about what you do here at Central?
Like, before this, opportunity that came up, like, I never wanted to do videos. like seriously,
Yeah.
I never wanted to. I had no desire to. But Eric came along and said, "Hey, do you want to?" And I was like, "You know what?" Like, so I do. And doing it for, I don't know, what is this? Maybe a year now. Like, it's just fun. It's just so cool. And there's so many different videos we do, from interviews with people, or testimony videos, or just recap videos, or whatever. But it's cool to just capture, like, people's stories, or like the atmosphere that we were in, or like, just what the event was actually like, and like piecing it together. It's just fun. It's just cool. And it's always a growing, like, you always grow and you progress.
It's interesting. I think you're kind of like a modern day interpreter, because there's really a language of the land that people speak right now. And that language is for sure video and media driven. And so you're kind of charged with the responsibility of communicating the message of Central, but more importantly, the message of Christ through the language that people speak today. And that's a pretty big responsibility.
Yeah. It's cool.
Speaking of what people speak today, maybe yesterday, John, what was your first job here at Central?
What it's video stuff.
I know. Isn't that cool? And it's just, I think too, I mean, again, sound effects. This is just another testimony to you have a lot of people on staff that didn't want the jobs that they have, but felt called because there was talent and there was a willingness and obedience there. And Caden, you are one of those guys. There's a talent there that you don't like to proclaim, which is probably good because we need to be humble. But you bring your willingness and your obedience to this, and that talent just fuels all this. And I'm grateful to sit across from you, help you with a lot of things. But I mean, our WSI audience would not exist without your editing skills. And we were talking about this too. Just the way that you can edit, like you said, Jon, you interpret it what happened in the worship center, but you can do it in a way that really can hit a heart even harder than it did sometimes in the worship center. Because you can zoom in on something, you can edit something in a way that really just makes it the most impactful that it could be. So now I also want to talk about, because Steve Dillingham, he's our what's his title? Live video director? Live video
director.
Everything control room to video.
Steve's the best.
Steve, I love Steve.
Yeah.
Shout out Steve Dillingham.
Shout out.
Because
love that guy so much.
He really is a shepherd in what he does.
Yes.
Not only all the technical stuff, and we could talk for hours about the tech. Well, I couldn't. Maybe Jon could about the technical stuff that he does, that he excels in to bring about this ministry that we have for online TV and in house. But he's a shepherd with his volunteers. Yes. He brings about the team, and those team members. I mean, they're like for creative arts. When you get on a team, you do a cycle, right, Noah? Like where you're maybe one every 6 weeks or a couple times but yet you're there the whole weekend. And you're there for practice beforehand. And the dedication of those people behind the scenes in that control room, because people that just sit in the worship center, they don't see what's going on in the control room, but you got people pushing buttons and making sure things happen and all the prep that happens before then. So give us a little bit about what you've experienced kind of in the control room and interacting with Steve and all those volunteers.
Yeah. So it's funny because before we came, I talked to Steve a little bit. I was like, hey, we're going to do this podcast. I know stuff about control room, but like, I need to know like specific things, whatever. But I was telling him a story of one weekend he was off and I was directing an 8 a.m. service. And I guess it might've been like somebody's lower third or like a scripture or whatever. And, whoever was running pro presenter, threw up the slide, whatever, and cool. And it had been up there for quite some time. And I was like, all right, go ahead, take it down. They go, no, Steve tells me I need to do it this long. And I said, okay. But I mean, it's just cool because like
Steve's not here right now.
No, for real. But it's just cool because like Steve just runs that whole place so well, and like they respect him and love him and just follow his lead, and he just does a really great job with that. But it's just cool because I mean, there's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you really wouldn't even think about or know if you weren't in the control room. And it's just crazy like how much work goes on behind the scenes to make the stuff out front happen. So I don't know, it's just cool.
And they do it with a lot of excellence, and they do it with just a dedication that you see. I mean, it's just great. All of our volunteers do that, but these are the people that you absolutely don't see because they're hidden behind a door, and it's a closed door because they got to concentrate. But yeah, just a shout out to them. And I think it kind of going a little bit now over to Caden or over to Noah. Noah, you've been on staff how long now? Still into the months. We're not into the year yet, right?
Really?
Kind of close.
8 months.
Okay, because here's what's really cool. This time last year, we knew we needed somebody, and it was so funny because you came to us, right?
Yeah.
You wanted to kind of be here, and because tell us a little bit about, because you used to live in Mount Vernon. Going to
that. So I mean, we've been moving. We moved a lot, but I ended up in Sedalia, Missouri. And I knew of Central because I lived here and graduated from Mount Vernon Township High School. Shout out to them.
Ram Nation.
Yeah.
Nice.
Rams, go Rams. But anyways, so I moved away, and then I knew about Central, and I was searching. I knew that it was time to, leave where I was at. And so I reached out to Nick, and I was like, hey, I really want to, be at Central. Can you talk to whoever's in charge? And he's like, yeah, I'll hit you up with Eric. And so I was originally coming in here thinking I was coming for like a resident program thing, but the Lord knew differently, and here I am, student worship.
I think it was really neat because.
And is it true? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just you asked that. I would think it was just funny because last year for CIY, Eric went to CIY really just to test you because you were going to CIY, and he just said, "I gotta know this guy." Because your first conversation with Eric, I mean, you guys had an hour conversation. I feel like we're talking about a romance here. If you know Eric Lyday, you're probably not going to be on a telephone call with him very long.
Yeah.
He's to the point. So it was just, it speaks to your nature, Noah, because you have a quietness and a gentleness and a peace about you that you don't see in very many people your age. But there's an intentionality too there that, again, you don't see in people your age. So I think what you bring to student ministries, a lot of these kids love it. I know my kids personally love it. And you've done a great job directing and go, John, what were you going to say?
Mine was a little less deep. I was going to talk about how really in that 9 months you have solidified yourself as the most eligible bachelor on our staff and really in our congregation.
Wow.
Well, I mean, am I wrong? No, right? But on the flip side of that, Caden, you are just newly married.
Yes.
What's the best part of marriage so far for you?
Best part about being married? What are we at? Month 5.
You got married in October.
Nope.
No.
December.
Yes.
Best part of being married right now, honestly, you get the question, what's marriage like? What's marriage like? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm only 5 months into this.
Yeah, right.
But really, it's just cool because it's like you literally just live every day with your best friend.
Yeah.
That you met however long ago, and you knew your best friends, but now you're like living with them.
Yeah.
And it's cool. You just learn about each other, and you learn like what ticks them off and what doesn't, or like what makes them happy. Just all the stuff. And like, I don't know. It's just cool. Growing is cool.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's tough.
But
it's good.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
I'm proud of you. I mean, seriously, it's great. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
You guys.
Thanks.
And Noah, I mean, obviously,
Not married.
Central
Single.
Newsletter's most eligible
beep,
bachelor.
beep, 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 beep. This just in. No, it's all right.
But okay, explain to
I
us.
don't know if I'm honored or.
A lot of people that might be listening to the Central Weekly might really not know
His
what
phone
you do.
number is.
No, please.
wouldn't
don't.
do
On a typical weekend, you're in a lot of places. Am I right?
Yep.
Tell us where you're at.
I'm the guy running around with the guitar. So I'm usually in Kid Depot in the morning. So we have Ignite service going on. So that's our middle school ministry. And then we have our Kid Depot. We do live worship there in both places. And so that happens on a Sunday morning. And so with Central having 3 services in the morning, 8 a.m., 9:15, and then 11. I do service in Kid Depot 9:15, go to practice for Ignite at 10 o'clock, and then service at 11 for both Kid Depot and Ignite. And so
Let that sink in. 2 different worship services.
2 different worship services,
in
2 different ages.
Hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we kind of just...
One flight of stairs.
One flight of stairs. Yes. And so we just... steward our time well, and during our meeting, making sure that we're not going to, head on head with each other, making sure that everything's fine. So usually that works out, hopefully, but most of the time it does work out. And then Sunday night we have our high school ministry, Fusion. We do that.
So what's some wins that you've seen in this short time that you've been leading? Ways that, you've gotten people involved, or just share some wins for us.
Yeah, so some wins that I got to encounter, and I have my notebook below me. So, yeah.
It's almost empty, too. Like, it's
I'm
almost
on the last
full.
page. No, I'm on the
Wow.
last page.
I don't think there's a few times where I've actually finished a journal.
This has gone
I'll go to a new one.
This has
I
gone
get bored and I just throw it out after like 15.
Yeah.
This has gone a full year.
Come
Actually,
on, Noah.
what's the first date? I have the date on here. July 30th. Almost a full year. Anyways, wins. So we had a CA Student Worship Academy this year.
Yeah.
And that was super fun, super exciting to connect with students. Probably the biggest win that I thought during that day was our opportunity to talk about praise, which if you want to know what praise is, it's on the Praise podcast, aka. So that was one of the coolest things. Like, we got to be there to learn, how to play our instruments and how to use that in worship, but also learning what, the essential to what worship is about, and that's about Jesus.
Yeah.
And so, and that was a really cool thing for that day. And also it gave us a lot of information about students and what they're interested in, and to help grow with them, connect with them, and also learn with them through that. And then another win, Kid Depot, we had Recharge. Recharge was great. It was a full day, and so lots of energy. It was really cool to be able to have ministry time. We had a ministry time, and I don't know if you've ever been to Recharge at all, but it is a cool experience, to witness students, with other students at the altars, praying with one another and taking communion with one another and just being there. And so that was a really cool thing. And then I'm lately in all ministries, the students leading is a big win. We just got back from a conference that our Kid Depot, our family ministry actually team went to. And a big thing that they emphasize is like, how are we going to expect students to lead if we're not putting them in the positions to lead? And that's one thing that we're trying to, obviously steward that well. But, that's one thing that I'm super encouraged by, to see students lead, say, hey, even if it's like, hey, welcome to, Kid Depot. That's all I have for you. Like, even if it's just like that, putting them in those positions. And so I'm super excited for what God's going to do there. And also another win is, fourth win is that we're getting students in lessons. There's not many places around here that do guitar lessons or piano lessons,
and that's kind of one of the goals there of the academy.
And that's, no one's doing it, so why not us? Why not us do it? And so, I have 3 guitar students, and then I know that there's some people. There's a guy who's
shout out to Dave Brown.
Dave.
Yeah, seriously.
He's doing, drum lessons and piano lessons. And so that's a big win, I say, for the student ministry, is getting those students to learn, to help steward them and ultimately to lead that to Christ.
Yeah. And what you said and what I see with you guys and just the staff in general too in our church is you just see a lot of generations shepherding other generations right now, like I think ever before. And I think that's a testament to what the growth and the building up that's going on at Central is. We're not focused on, okay, just me around me, but we're looking at what's ahead of me and what's below me and what's, all around. So then how am I discipling those people, or how am I being discipled and being focused and intentional on what do I need to do to learn? And those kids are coming to you, they're wanting those lessons. And there's so many life lessons that not only that you can learn from your instrument, but then you can learn from that Christian instructor. So super cool. So what's next, gentlemen? What's next on creative arts and student creative arts coming up soon? I didn't prepare you for that question.
I'll go. I think we just had like a short meeting about this. I think that for the worship staff for CA, we're preparing to do some devotional things over songs. And I don't know if I'm supposed to share that yet.
But heard it here first.
Yes. But anyways, I won't say the name because I don't want to spoil it. But that's kind of something that we're preparing, is to help, give resources out to people to understand that these are more than just songs that we're singing. And so I think that's one thing. But on the top of my head, I can't think of it.
And it's funny because, Noah, you've got such a heart for that creativity that comes with worship. You literally come in your office in the middle of writing a song, and then you get in your office and usually try to write that song and do more of that. But it's just cool. To be around both of you and your creativity it inspires me, and I know it inspires a lot of people around. Well, it's cool because I think something that's going to be said next week that John's going to be talking about when it comes to the church is something that we'll put some pieces together with what Caden's going to be doing, especially in the video world.
Hope so.
So I'm encouraged by what you guys have and what you guys are doing, and to be at your age and doing what you're doing, and gosh, the future that's ahead of you is super cool. So keep it up, gentlemen.
Thanks. You keep it up. You keep it up.
You keep it up.
You keep it up.
Keep it up.
Go, guys.
All right, here we go. Next week is the big week. Build This House is coming to a close, but yet we're going to talk about the church, and we've got some neat things that we've got planned. That's one of the big things that you're working on next week, is a video that's going to be in that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
big video. More videos.
Yeah, Steve and
That's what's next.
Steve and I were getting footage for you all over Southern Illinois yesterday, and now you
really went all over Southern Illinois.
Well, but we only got half. We got to go out again. So, but it's going to be really fun. Next week's going to be seriously a weekend that you want to be in church, and we hope to see you in church because, again, watch online if you have to, but get in the room if you can, because this is a week that you'll be like, oh, I was there that week when we talked about that and we made those decorations. So, John Henninger, 63.
That's a lot.
The Central Weekly.
Yeah.
I see I'm trying to make that rhyme. I'm
Nice.
really trying to emphasize that. Thank you, gentlemen. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time,
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you back here, everybody, on the Central Weekly for episode. Guess what comes after 63?
Oh, man.
64!
What?
See you guys. Thanks so much. Noah and Caden Vaughn. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Jared and John. Bye, guys.